Dave Smith has some remarks about the tomb of the unknown soldier. David?
Thank you, Mayor Rowland. Good morning. I bring you greetings from Voyager Nationale of the 48th Society. As you know, today, November 11th, 2011, marks the 93rd anniversary of the signing of the armistice that ended the active fighting in World War I. But today is also the 90th anniversary of an event that brought a certain sense of closure to not only the thousands of families who had lost loved ones during that conflict, but also to the entire nation. This event was the interment of the unknown soldier in Arlington National Cemetery. It is a simple yet poignant story. The selection of one of our unknown dead be brought home in glory as the representative of the 77,000 American soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice for the cause of liberty. An American soldier who not only sacrificed his life on the altar of freedom, but also his very identity. An identity that shall never be disclosed until that wonderful day when the last trumpets shall sound. His story began in some battle, when some soldier fell. It ended just across the Potomac River from Washington, D.C., in Arlington National Cemetery. There, facing the Memorial Amphitheater, is the shrine, the tomb of the unknowns. Close at hand in quiet sanctuary are the many military decorations that he won, which was presented to him by a grateful nation and her many allies to commemorate his sacrifice. Today, across the peaceful countryside of France, in a line that at one time marked the front lines of battle, lie 4 American cemeteries. We call them Aine-Marne, Meuse-Argonne, Somme, and Saint-Mihiel. Here, where the wind-blown poppies grow among the row upon endless row of white crosses, sleep our battle dead of World War I. Most of these crosses bear an inscription noting the name, rank, and branch of service of those soldiers who now rest beneath them. But some only bear an impersonal number and a single word, unknown. From among those crosses, on October 22nd, 1921, one body was exhumed from each of the 4 cemeteries. From these 4, the unknown would be selected. Each body was examined to ensure that the soldier had been a member of the American Expeditionary Forces, that he had died of wounds received in combat, and there were no clues to his identity whatsoever. After mortuary preparation, the bodies were placed in identical caskets and shipping cases. The next day, accompanied by an American military officer acting as a guard of honor, they were transported to Chemin for the selection ceremony. At 3 p.m. on October 23rd, all 4 caskets arrived at the City Hall of Chemin-sur-Marne. Awaiting them was a large delegation of American and French officials. Major Robert P. Harbold of the Quartermaster Corps was the officer in charge of all the ceremonies in France. The City Hall had been decorated with French and American flags, as well as palms, potted trees, and massive floral arrangements. A catafalque had been constructed and set up in the main hall. Another room had been similarly decorated for the reception of the 4 unknowns and the selection ceremony the following morning. French soldiers then carried the shipping cases from the trucks into the reception room. The caskets were then removed, set on top of the cases, and draped with American flags. An American-French Guard of Honor maintained constant vigil. Later that night, 8 highly decorated non-commissioned officers from 8 different American units in Germany arrived to serve as pallbearers. During their initial briefing, Major Harbold informed one of them that he would be selected to choose the unknown. Early the next morning, Major Harbold, aided by French and American soldiers, rearranged the caskets so that each rested on a shipping case other than the one in which it had arrived. There was now little chance that anyone could even know the cemetery from which an unidentified body had came. Outside, the official delegations, as well as a mass of the local citizenry, began to form. A French infantry band was formed in the courtyard. Monsieur Vasseur-Brevet, a former member of the Chemin City Council who had lost 2 sons during the war, presented Major Harbold a spray of pink and white roses. He then handed Sergeant Edward F. Younger of the 50th Infantry the spray of roses and informed him that he would be the one to choose the unknown soldier. He also indicated that Sergeant Younger would note his choice by laying the spray of roses atop the casket he chose. The following account of the selection is in Sergeant Younger's own words, taken from an interview he gave in 1941. I silently entered the chamber, clutching the spray of roses in my hand. I was overwhelmed by the enormity of my mission. Instinctively, I bowed my head in prayer. Gazing at the honored row, I walked around them 3 times, when for a reason still unknown to me, I stopped in front of the second coffin from my right. It seemed as if I was drawn to that coffin. Was this the body of a buddy of mine? Was it someone that I had served with during the war? As the strains of a dirge being played by a French infantry band drifted into the room, the feeling of being pulled toward that one coffin became stronger still. Suddenly, a shaft of sunlight pierced the gloom, and with a feeling that God was guiding my trembling hand, I gently placed the spray of roses atop that coffin. I had selected an American soldier known only to God. I saluted, left the chamber, and reported to Major Harbold that my mission was complete. But ever since that day at Chalons, I have had the feeling that that unknown was someone that I once knew. The unknown was then taken to another room, and his remains were tenderly placed in a special coffin for his journey home. Inscribed on this coffin were the words, "An American unknown who gave his life in the World War." The other 3 caskets were then replaced into the shipping cases and immediately transferred to the Moose-Argonne Cemetery, where they now rest among their comrades in arms. The coffin of the unknown was then draped with an American flag, with the spray of roses placed on top, and was placed upon the catafalque in the main hall of Chemin City Hall. Over it, a guard of honor consisting of 6 French soldiers, 5 non-commissioned officers from the American forces in Germany, and a representative of the American Legion stood watch. And there, in state, our unknown lay covered with the flag for which he had died, as the citizens of Chalons passed by in single file, reverently paying homage and leaving their offerings of flower for our honored dead. The next morning, the body was transported to Le Havre, France. There, Admiral Dewey's old flagship, the Olympia, and her escort ship, the Reuben James, were waiting to return him at last to his homeland. This was to be the Olympia's final voyage before she was decommissioned, and the Reuben James was destined to become the first American warship sunk in World War II. Upon arrival in Washington, D.C., the coffin was conveyed to the Capitol Rotunda, where it rested on the same catafalque as Presidents Lincoln, Garfield, and McKinley. Flowers and wreaths were placed by individuals and organizations, as well as representatives of foreign government. Led by President and Mrs. Warren G. Harding, more than 90,000 Americans filed past the bear in silent homage. Many wiped away tears as they said goodbye, in retrospect, to their loved ones who had never returned. At 8:30 in the morning on November the 11th, 1921, as a military band played Near My God to Thee, the body of the unknown was borne down the steps of the Capitol and placed on a caisson waiting below. President Harding and General of the Army's Pershing led the cortege that included ex-presidents, representatives from each branch of government, Medal of Honor winners marching 8 abreast, military units from each branch of service, as well as delegations from numerous civic, patriotic, and veterans organizations. At the Memorial Amphitheater in Arlington Cemetery, President Harding presided over the funeral services. As he presented the unknown the Medal of Honor, he said, "We know not whence he came, but only that his death marks him with the everlasting glory of an American who died for his country. We cannot know the eminence of his birth, but we do know the glory of his death. He died for his country, and greater devotion has no man than this." After the body was placed on the tomb and the last rites were given, Chief Plentycoo, chief of the Crow Nation representing all Native Americans, paid respect to a fallen warrior by placing his war bonnet and coup stick at the tomb. As the coffin was lowered into the tomb to rest on a layer of soil from France and with a spray of roses still atop, taps was sounded. After the last note, an artillery battery fired 21 guns in final salute to the unknown soldier of World War I. Today, members of the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard, provide a guard of honor at his resting place. These dedicated soldiers stand constant vigil 24 hours a day, every day. If the unknown soldier could speak to us today, I'm convinced he would warn us not to fall victim to seductive foreign influences who wish us ill. He would remind us that in today's world, we must maintain a strong national defense, because a nation who would be free must be strong. In May of 1954, he was joined by 2 comrades representing the unknown soldiers of World War II and the Korean War. In May of 1984, they were joined by yet another comrade who represented the unknowns from Vietnam. In 1998, the remains of the Vietnam unknown were identified and returned to his family. His empty crypt remains there today as a reminder of a gift from God. That gift is the knowledge to understand the human DNA code, so that never again will an American service member's final resting place be marked with a stone inscribed, "Here rest in honored glory, an American soldier known but to God." Thank you.